Okay, we're going to get some pretty long exposures now. This is a 25-second exposure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Looking at this 25-second exposure, it looks very similar to the Buzz Aldrin photo of him stepping down the ladder. But of course, if Armstrong was to take the photograph with a 25-second exposure, and with Neil Armstrong, constantly trying to keep the shot steady, and Buzz Aldrin, wobbling around as he's coming down the ladder, it would have been a very pointless exercise to take the photograph, because in the end result would have been a very distorted image. The results of our experiment are definitive. The lunar surface, with its albedo of a mere 7%, simply wouldn't have been enough to illuminate shaded objects. The only way to bring up the detail without the aid of reflectors or fill lights would be to increase the exposure setting. But the required shutter speed would be so long that it would have required Aldrin to remain perfectly still for more than 25 seconds. Remember too, the camera was chest mounted, not tripod mounted, meaning Armstrong would have to keep the shot steady this whole time. Our shots turned out perfect because we kept the camera on the ground during the entire shoot. And we can prove that the increased f-stop and shutter speeds would have ruined the images.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
As you already know, Neil Armstrong's first step was recorded by both the Westinghouse TV camera and the 16mm data acquisition camera. Here is the feed from the 16mm camera. Armstrong is coming down the ladder. As you can see, he is covered in pitch black shadow. But watch what happens as the aperture opens to bring out more detail.
Okay, would you verify the position, the opening I ought to have on the camera? Stand by. Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now. Neil, we can see you coming. Okay, I just checked, getting back up to that first step.
Armstrong is now perfectly lit. But look at the landscape. The lunar surface is now heavily overexposed. This is because the camera cannot adjust to the extremely dim astronauts and the comparatively bright lunar surface at the same time. Now compare this DAC still to the Buzz Aldrin photo. If the exposure has been adjusted to photograph Aldrin's pitch black spacesuit, why is the landscape still correctly exposed? Back on the asphalt road, we are now going to test the theory that this photo was taken using reflectors or fill lights. As you can see, he appears pitch black, even though we're on an asphalt road which has the same albedo as the moon's surface. So my assistant here would like to bring out the reflector and see if it can bring up any detail. As you can see, that looks much better. Now you see him, now you don't. Now you see him, now you don't. Okay, now I'll just get some shots. Okay, we're doing the same thing that we did before, only now we're actually using the reflector. I've taken a brief exposure setting, and the results I'm getting seem to be the same as those that were gathered in the Apollo images. And there you have it. Had the Mythbusters done their experiment properly, they would have found out that a surface with the same albedo as the moon will not reflect enough light to illuminate shaded objects. For all the effort it would take to increase the exposure settings just to get a darkened object as beautifully lit as Buzz Aldrin, it would have been far more easier to just use a fill light or reflector. Taking into account all the evidence just presented, the only thing that is busted is the validity of the Mythbusters results. Of course, the Mythbusters are not the first to prop up their arguments based on severely flawed experiments. The reflected light claim was also peddled on the ZigZag Productions documentary, The Truth Behind the Moon Landings.
Skeptics also question the amount of detail visible in areas that should be in shade. Their explanation? A second light source has filled them in.
Well, let's have a look at one of the most famous photographs of the 20th century, Man on the Moon. It was taken by Neil Armstrong of Buzz Aldrin on Apollo 11. Given that it's very harsh light, as you can see here, where it strikes directly, you would expect the shadow area to be virtually invisible. But it's not.
But on our man-made lunar set, we can clearly see the reflective properties created by our only source of light.
As you can see, there is only one light source in this entire picture, and it's behind us. According to the conspiracy theorists, this side of the astronaut should be in total shadow. But it isn't. What's happening? The light from the ground around us is being reflected back up toward the astronaut, and it's illuminating this portion of him.
Again, just like the Mythbusters, Jay Windley and ZigZag Productions botched their experiment. By their own admission, they filmed their experiment out in the Trona Pinnacles, a region of the Californian desert.
To test these conspiracy claims, we relied on our own technical knowledge as filmmakers to create a lunar set. We chose the Trona Pinnacles, a desert area 4 hours from Hollywood, the home of movie making.
And according to Wikipedia, desert sand has an albedo of 40%, which is more than the average albedo of Earth seen from space. I guarantee, had Jay Windley and his friends lifted a finger to get the right albedo, their results would have been entirely different. As you can see, we're on an asphalt road, it has the exact same albedo as the moon, and we have the one light source. Yet, you can only see this side of my face. If this asphalt road is so reflective, like the moon, how come you can't see this one side of my face? Let's ask Greg here to bring out the reflector. Now you can see me more clearly. Now you see me? Now you don't. Now you see me? Now you don't. The two Buzz Aldrin photos, plus Charlie Duke's photo, are just 3 out of thousands and thousands of other photographs that show backlit objects illuminated in vivid detail. It would take a laundry list to list all of them, but I think we have time for one more. Readers of Ralph Renee's book, NASA Mooned America, will no doubt have seen the famous Al Bean photo on the cover. We can clearly see the sun is shining over Bean's right shoulder. Yet not only is the left side of his suit illuminated, but so are both sides of the soil sample container that he holds in his right hand. As Ralph Renee writes in his book,
Bean is holding in his right hand a polished piece of metal tubing that has no shadowed side. Was a flash used in sunlight that is 20% brighter than Earth's?
there is a certain Apollo 12 photograph showing Alan Bean holding a tiny, polished cylinder. It has no shadowed side. We don't have the same cylinder as Al Bean did, but we do have this little spray can of hairspray. As you can see, we just have the one light source, yet it has a shadowed side. something that was not present in the Apollo 12 photograph. Once again, let's ask Greg here to show us what it looks like with the reflector on. Makes a whole lot of difference, doesn't it? Now you see it, now you don't. Now you see it, now you don't.